WhiteSource is different from the others. You know, open source is awesome, but it needs to be managed and managed carefully in order to understand what we have. Today, more and more, just a second, something. Sorry. So more and more people are using, you know, open source, and we need to talk about basically the challenges that we have when we manage our open source, right? So basically, we would like to know what we have in our inventory. You know, we need to know what you're using, and in order to do it properly, we need to manage it properly. About security, well, you know, a lot of open source component has security vulnerabilities out there, and we need to understand what they are and how to fix them. About the same thing is about you know, license compliance, when we need to know what open source components we are using and what is the proper license that comes with it. And of course, we're talking about quality. What is the latest version of the open source component? Because as long as you use an old version, more bugs, more vulnerability come with it. So today, you know, you simply cannot develop software today without using open source. It has become a necessity, and it's great. You know, open source enable companies to build better product and faster. After all, we should, you know, we don't need to reinvent the wheel when you can just download a component from GitHub. But the fact that is your team didn't, you know, write the majority of the code, you basically need to manage it and understand what is inside of it. So it's still up to us to understand what you have in your product and to ensure your product is, let's say, secured and working according to the legal terms. But it's not that easy, right? There are more and more dependencies. The reported vulnerability dependencies we found during the development. You know, each and every one can take an open source and enhance it and fix it, and basically can work with it, right? So it's getting more chaotic in a way of how to manage those kinds of so basically, so how can we get the control you need in order to manage your open source usage, right? So when we look on the way we can treat those management options, is first of all, we can do it manually. Okay, we can try to do it manually, but basically, how can you find all those transitive dependencies? How you can verify it? So it's a very, very a slow process. The next thing basically is not to do nothing, right? But if you don't do nothing, you will be left exposed. And the last one is basically automate the entire process. So you will have everything in place, minimum of human mistakes, and let's see how we can do it. So let me introduce to you WhiteSource. WhiteSource is basically today the leader of the software composition analysis field. We founded in 2011. We have today more than 800 customers. More than 1.2 million developers are using WhiteSource, and we are in growth phase year by year by 3. So WhiteSource help you to develop better software faster by, you know, by not compromising on security and agility. So we help you to secure your code, to secure your license compliance, to basically give you the entire development lifecycle secured in both terms. And when we talk about securing both terms, we are talking about the WhiteSource databases, right? We have the components license databases, and we have the vulnerability database. And when WhiteSource give you the option to review your inventory, we will associate a component with its vulnerabilities and its license. So you will have all the information. So offering the best of both worlds, right? We have the WhiteSource offer few solutions in order to cover the entire development lifecycle. We are talking about WhiteSource for developers. We will get into it in a minute. And we have the WhiteSource core. So the WhiteSource core helps you to understand what are the give you the option to know all about your open source components and what are the transitive dependency to the entire tree. We detect open source components, including all the transitive dependencies. I said every time you do a commit or run your build, you can have WhiteSource triggered automatically in order to find everything you need to know about your open source components. And we have the WhiteSource for developers when you start from the beginning. We will talk about it in a minute. As I said, we have real-time alert, where you have automatic policies, you have reporting that you can use from the WhiteSource UI, or you can export it by API. We have the WhiteSource prioritize that I will touch base on that later. And of course, we have the WhiteSource for containers that we supported the Docker images, containers, and integration to Kubernetes. WhiteSource for developers. So WhiteSource really believe in the shift left approach. So as early as possible, you will find your open source component. It will cost you less money, and it will save you time, because when you find something in the middle of the way, you need to go back to the start and fixing it. So WhiteSource offer web browser integration. When you basically go to, let's say, NPM or NuGet or Maven Central or even GitHub, and you want to download a project or a specific component, we will be able to alert you if any of the component that you want to download is vulnerable, what if the license issues that you had, and if it violates any of your internal policies. And from there, this is the most shift left approach that you can find. The next one, basically, after you download the component, you have the IDE integration. So inside of your IDE, we will alert you what are the vulnerabilities, how to remediate those vulnerabilities, and then you can basically choose what is the version of the component that you would like to use in order to avoid any vulnerabilities inside of it. The other one, let's say you have IDE integration and you fix everything, and now you commit it to your repo. So on the repo level, we have the option to, we will scan your entire project. And
Samir, Samir, 1 minute. Actually, we are not seeing your screen. We lost your screen. Can you please show your screen once again?
Really?
You can share your screen once again, yeah. Yes, just now it's gone actually. Would you please share your screen once again in GoToMeeting window?
Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we talked about the repo integration. So when you commit your code into your repo, it will trigger an automatic scan on the repo, and we will tell you what are the vulnerabilities that are assigned to your component that you use, and we will be able to tell you everything about each and every component, each and every vulnerability. So what is the vulnerable component? What are the fixes? Links to the CV and NVD databases, and we will tell you if there is any pull request. You can basically choose WhiteSource to remediate this and patch your code, and this is all about remediation. So this is how it looks like in terms of WhiteSource for developers. So we are planning using the web advisor, the browser integration. We go to code when we do the ID and the repo integration, and then we go to the WhiteSource core. So it's all about build, deploy, and maintain. And when you look at it like that, we are with you every step of the way, okay? From the beginning till the end. Even though you develop something, you release it to production, and now you're not scanning it anymore because it's only in maintenance. If there is any new vulnerability published, we will alert you and give you all the information, even though you didn't run another scan. I would like to take you basically to the how do you say, to the next level of vulnerability detection. I would like to introduce you WhiteSource Prioritize. WhiteSource Prioritize will give you the option to understand which of the vulnerabilities actually impact your code. Okay, let's say you have 100 vulnerability. It doesn't mean that you actually use the vulnerable method. So WhiteSource will indicate what is the vulnerable method and will share with you all the information about which of the vulnerabilities you need to fix now in terms of the project, to prioritize your project, right? If you have 100 vulnerabilities, only 20 of them are actually impact your code. This is the first that you would like to basically fix. And when we look on, oh, sorry, it was really fast. So when you look on the outcome of the WhiteSource Prioritize scan, you will be able to see the exact line of code that is actually vulnerable. And when you think about it, when you go to your developers, or if you are a developer, and you know there are 100 vulnerabilities, and from WhiteSource scan you can see that you need to fix only 20, it's great. It saves around, a lot of hours, like 20 hours a month per developer. So it saves a lot of money because of the time, and it's a lot of effort from the developers. Another thing that we have is basically the WhiteSource support container and serverless. So we fully integrated into Kubernetes, and we have the option to scan not only Docker images, we have the option to scan running containers to be integrated inside of the Kubernetes environment. That's it about WhiteSource for containers. So we are fully integrated to the entire development lifecycle, from the web browser to the IDE to the repo and remediation, and then we will go to the pipeline and development and build processes, to the deployment and the post-deployment as well. So the WhiteSource age, right? So WhiteSource support today more than 200 programming languages, more than 30 different package managers. We have the prioritization. We help you to focus on what matter with vulnerabilities and to avoid any false positives. And of course, we are not only alerting you about new issues, we will also provide you actionable and validated remediation tool to enable quick resolution. I think I left a lot of time to questions, so please.
So, can you show the reports which generates, like, how does that looks like and what's the content in it?
The reports of WhiteSource?
Yes.
So I will show you just in a minute. I will show you the WhiteSource portal, and we can go over that.
Okay.
Okay, I have a generic question.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
The WhiteSource is actually going to detect only vulnerability with respect to the open source, or is it going to get the security vulnerability in the actual code base, whatever we develop also?
So we are not static code analysis in a term of reading your proprietary code, but the WhiteSource Prioritize, basically what it does, it looks on your proprietary code and find which open source method that the proprietary code use, and alert you if any of the proprietary code affects from any of the vulnerabilities that related to that.
Okay.
So do we need to configure? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so yeah, you are actually stating right, because I was actually we were using the Coverity. So with respect to the Coverity, I was just thinking, can WhiteSource be the potential replacement for the Coverity if I could able to scan on the proprietary software, whatever I develop internally?
So we are not, we are open source management solutions. So we will not read your proprietary code. Basically, WhiteSource does not read the actual code in the regular scan. What we do basically, we have an agent that calculates SHA-1 for each and every component. And based on the SHA-1, we will understand if proprietary.
Okay. The very first scan, you determine what exactly is the open source is all about, and then what you do is you start actually like analyzing whether the source is vulnerable or not.
That you can specify the language that you would like to scan. And we will, let's say you want Java, okay? So you will enable the Maven or the Gradle package manager inside of the configuration file, and we will be able to find not only the direct dependencies that you are in your POM file, we will be able to find the transitive dependencies as well.
Okay, but some cases I do not know myself about the open source which I'm using is developed in which language, either Java or C++. In that case, can I go with the default option given from the WhiteSource to scan?
So we have, the agent has a specific mechanism that you can enable it, that we will detect what are the component extensions are, and based on that we will understand which of the development languages you are using.
Okay.
So let's see what we have here inside of the website, right? By the way, if I will take, for example, Azure DevOps, okay, and I'm talking about build process. So it's very easy to configure it because it's a command line tool. So it will be able, let's take NPM for example. So you have the NPM install. After that, you just need to add 2 command line steps that will call the WhiteSource agent, run a short script that will tell the WhiteSource agent to start to run, and that's it. This is the entire configuration and implementation, the same for all the CI/CD pipeline environment that are available. Okay, so what we see in the, you asked about reports, right? So WhiteSource have a bunch of reports out of the box. All the first section is more about compliance. The second one is more about security, vulnerability, and risk. And the last one is basically history and logs that we collect. So each and every report can be exported to Excel, XML, and JSON. And of course, you can use WhiteSource API in order to export it locally to your machine or to connect it to any other monitoring or dashboard system that you are using. Any questions?
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Suppose like I am not using like directly the open source code. I'm using the some DLLs. So which I use along with my development lifecycle. So and then like does the WhiteSource detect those particular DLLs also?
Yes, of course. So I assume that you are using NuGet, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So yes, of course, we support the NuGet DLLs. And even though you're not using it directly, so you call it's a transitive dependency of one of the dependencies that you're using. So yes, of course, we will detect it as well.
Okay.
And just to give you if we're talking about NuGet, I would like to show you. Let's take this one for example. So this is the web integration. So you can see here the WhiteSource icon. Once it will click on it, it will scan this page and will give you all the information about it. So you can see the name of the component, the version, the license, if it violates any of the policies inside of your organization, and you can see here the vulnerability. Wow. Okay, when you will click on the vulnerability, it will basically take you to the CV database in order to read further about this issue, right? So The benefits of it, okay, the benefits of using this extension is before you even download the component to your machine, you will be able to know what you're going to use.
Great. Got it.
This is awesome.
Yeah, this
Yes,
is like
it is.
a ad blocker, so which I I like judiciously use it. It's really very nice. So good.
Exactly. So I'm thinking about breaking builds after the developer finishes entire work, and now you break his build because he violated any of your policies. It's very hard to go back to the developer said, listen, you broke the build, right? You failed the build. It failed because of you. So if you will use the WhiteSource advice in the web browser, the WhiteSource integration to the IDE, it will avoid a technical shaming on the build process, right?
Yep. That's a good one.
Yes. Okay. So I want to show you how it looks like in way of the WhiteSource prioritize. So let's take Java, for example, here. Okay. You see here, this is a project that we scanned, and you can see here all the information about this project. You see the number of policy violation. You see the number of new version of the components. You can see if you're using one component that has more than one version inside of your product. You can see if there are any multiple licenses, and you see the amount of vulnerable libraries and the amount of vulnerability that's related to those libraries. And you can see here the license distribution for the entire product that you're using. So if I will click on the libraries, you can see here there are green and red shields, right? So those are indications if vulnerabilities actually impact your code or not. So let's take the green one here. So you can see all the information about the CV itself here, and you can see there is no trace in the code at all. But if I will go back and click on this red one, you can see here that this is a red, and you can see the exact line of code that is actually vulnerable, and your proprietary code use this specific method. And if you would like to understand how to fix it, you just need to click on the CVE here. You get into the CVE page. You can see everything here. You can see the references, and here you have the suggested fixes, how to remediate this vulnerability.
That's good.
Yes. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just have one question.
Yes, please.
So is this are you maintaining a database of all open source vulnerabilities, or do you scan those jars or whatever is the dependent open sources in real time, and then figure out this could be the vulnerability?
So basically, we have our own database that we are updating all the time. Basically, the average time is updated every 6 hours, and we have our own let's say vulnerabilities that we add to the WhiteSource database, because we are not only supporting CV and NVD databases. We have like 15 other security advisory that we are working with in order to make our database the best in the market. And about the real time, you mean during build time?
Yes.
So we are doing the analysis during build time, but if you are talking about reading the proprietary code that calls to an open source component vulnerability, if we're talking about Java, we will take the jar file and we will analyze the jar file and see if there are any vulnerabilities that actually affect your code.
So when you say analyze, that you compare with your database, not trying to do static or static code analysis or dynamic analysis of code. You only compare.
Exactly.
Okay.
During the scanning, during one phases, okay, there are a few basically steps to the scan. First of all, you look on the configuration file and find and basically use the configuration file to understand which development language you use, right? Then it starts let's say Java, for example. So it looks for the POM file, find the dependencies, and based on the dependencies, it will search for the transitive dependencies. After we collect all the information, it will contact to WhiteSource, to the WhiteSource databases. And if the policy violation is enabled, we will fail the build if it violates any policies, and it will send all the results to the WhiteSource databases them in the account. Very important note, we will not upload any of your proprietary code to the WhiteSource databases. The only thing we are uploading to WhiteSource is SHA-1 and digital signature and metadata about the library.
Okay.
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, any other questions?
So you only check for licensing compliance, or even the security, or other kind of like static or dynamic library also gives you some alerts, right?
So we're not only using the license compliance. We have the option to find license compliance and vulnerabilities. I will take one of the components and I will show you.
So when you say vulnerability, only you're talking about security alone?
About vulnerabilities, yes. It's only about security.
Okay. How about programming?
How about what? Sorry?
Some programming logic issues reported in, let's say, in Spring.
So we are not reading the actual code. So we are not starting code analysis.
In Spring jar, maybe it will crash the system if you use it in certain way.
So you mean about the compliance, about security?
So there could be some errors in open source which may not be related to security.
So in the way you are using the open source side of your code?
Right.
So it required the static code analysis.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
So I think for that, like, we need to use the separate tools. Probably, like, we have a lot of tools like Polyspace, Coverity, the Misra checker, AD array, so PC linter, so many things are there which we can actually use.
So basically, there is no one tool that will give you everything you need, right?
Exactly.
But the WhiteSource integration is very easy. API are robust solution for API. So yeah, you can use WhiteSource to integrate with everything.
Okay, I have a question. Like, how do I include my own policy if I have one?
So let's talk about policies. So adding policies in WhiteSource is very easy. So you just need to click on Add Policies. Just name the policy. Let's take GPL, for example, or any security vulnerability. We can have, let's take reject security, right? Let's take severity, let's choose I. And for every policy, you have 5 different actions. You have approve, that basically you can create a whitelist. You have reject, that you basically create a blacklist. So you can fail the build based on reject. And we have 3 different workflows. So the reassign means that if you have a component that you are not sure if you would like to approve or reject it, you can assign it to someone from your organization to approve it or reject it. Condition means you have more and more people on the decision making if to approve or reject a specific component. And in addition to that, we have issue tracker that you can basically integrate us with Jira or work items in order to automatically open a ticket into your bug tracker environment. Any question about the policies?
Can we integrate this with open source, Jenkins?
Yes, of course. I can show you how it looks like in Jenkins.
Yeah. Hello.
I'd like to go back to the previous page once you show this one.
Okay, sure, of course.
Yeah.
Hello. Yes.
I hope my Jenkins is not down. not should be.
It's taking quite a bit of time. It is.
Yeah. Here we go.
No.
So let's go back to it in a minute. Yeah, here on the page.
Okay. So I have given the name. So basically, like, how do we compare with respect to policy? Like, I have, I know like what is the action item I need to take. So like, consider I do have a database which is getting updated regularly for 6 hours. Okay. So like, am I going to match this particular keyword that my security vulnerability severity to high? But like, what is the condition that actually I got this particular vulnerability? I wanted to add my own vulnerability. That's what is my.
You want to add your own vulnerability to the WhiteSource database?
Exactly.
So in that case, you can open it
onto the policy. Yeah.
So for that, you need to open a ticket to the WhiteSource support team and share your information about the security. We will investigate it and research it, and we will give you and if it's a valid security vulnerability, we will add it.
Okay.
So this is a Jenkins integration. So as you saw in the Azure DevOps, it's almost the same thing. The only thing basically you need to know or to do is just to add another step to your build process that basically will execute the WhiteSource agent. So you just need to add a batch file, a batch command, and execute WhiteSource. That's it. Very easy integration, very straightforward, very light integration, no need to install anything. The only prerequisite for WhiteSource is Java 8 or above installed on the machine that will run the WhiteSource agent. That's it.
Can you see the reports, whatever you were actually showing on the WhiteSource page, right? So can we be able to see the same thing in the Jenkins also?
So you can use, we are working on integrating the WhiteSource report automatically to the CI/CD pipeline environment, but you can definitely use WhiteSource API in order to attach all the reports to your CI/CD pipeline.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Does it support Python?
Of course.
Okay.
So we have the language page of WhiteSource. So we support today more than 200 languages, right? So I don't familiar with the language that we are not supporting, but you can always go to here and click on Python. Congratulations, your language is available. So you can check this WhiteSource language page for everything. So yeah, we support. I don't familiar with the language that we are not supporting.
Okay.
And I would like to show you the web advisor regarding to Python. Okay, so I will go to the Django, right? So,
okay.
And I will click on that icon and it will analyze the page on Stack Overflow. And it will show you, now you can see they are here and icons during the pip install command. So you can see here the Django, the name of the component, the version and the license. And if I will scroll down, you can see here red shields. So once I will click on that, you can see the version, the name, the license, if there is any policy violation, and all the vulnerabilities that are related to that. And click on each one of them in order to understand what it means.
Okay.
See, close to the version 1.4, there is a text appear as an outdated. What does it mean?
It means that this is not the latest version of the component. When you click on that, so it probably has a newer version that is not part of this page.
Okay.
And when you go to the WhiteSource account, and let's take one of the components, for example, let's take Python. Let's take this one, for example. Okay, so you can see here the known versions. Okay, and you can basically see what are the old versions. And I would like to show you one more thing regarding to that. Let's take one of the components from here.
So these things are not pre-populated with the WhiteSource.
Sorry?
all these existing versions, older, new, and all pre-populated data with WhiteSource.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is a Jackson database that is very popular. So you can see here the license, the versions, the copyrights. You can see here the vulnerabilities that's related to that. And I will take another component. Let's take this one, for example. So you can see here the CVE that's related to that component and which versions is actually affected in. So if we'd like to avoid this one, you just need to upgrade to that final version.
Okay. Great.
So
Yeah.
if your tool says that this is open source compliant to use and adopt, does it mean that we are legally safe?
Now you should use your, when I'm looking on Apache 2, we will give you here the information you need to know about this one, right? 39, what it means that you wave with your mouse on the question mark, and you can see anyone who distributes the code must provide certain notices, right? So we will give you advice what to do, but information is provided on an as-is basis. Please consult your legal advisor.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
So consider I have actually got a list of .pyc files which were like pre-compiled Python files. Okay, so I have renamed them, and if I have used, even though they were actually like open source, I have just like renamed the method, so it becomes my proprietary code, right?
Right.
And the WhiteSource will not detect it.
So just a second. If you modified your component, okay, it will appear in the WhiteSource UI as requires review. Okay, requires review can be one of four options. One is your proprietary code, so we don't have any information. The second one is commercial code. The third one, it's a modified component that you basically modified in order to add your own.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of requires review, there are two options. If you know what is the license and you know it's an open source, but we haven't detected it, so you have the option to add it manually. The other option is to open a ticket to our support team and ask them to open a ticket to our research team in order to investigate this component. And if you know for sure that this is proprietary code, you can create an in-house rule to detect open source proprietary code, and those components will not be part of the open source inventory in the WhiteSource UI.
Okay. See, like I think this is fine, but like what I'm trying to think is if I have the entire code developed and it has actually taken a considerable amount of efforts, like consider 2 years or 3 years down the line, the code is like matured enough. So where we are not even touching such components where we have used the open source. So and we have already like renamed it. So because as it it becomes our proprietary code or something. So the WhiteSource is not even going to like touch those specific lines and say it's like vulnerable or not, right?
So we have the option to detect them based on the you mean you change the name as well?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
So if the SHA-1 is not matched, they will appear in the as a requires review.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But basically, the WhiteSource approach is a shift-left approach, so you should scan your code as early as possible in the development lifecycle. But if it's a legacy code, we have the option to tweak a little bit the configuration in order to fund them. If you're talking about Java, for example, we may be able, we can use the WhiteSource prioritize in order to understand what is inside of it.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, so
Yeah, one
thank
more
you very
question.
much. Yeah, go ahead, please.
So do you work with any of these, static code analyzer, and do you have some partnerships?
Yes, of course. We have integration with Fortify, and we have integration with the IBM tools. Just to give you the understanding that Microsoft is not only our customer, is our partner and our investor. So yeah, we have a Fortify integration, and as I mentioned before, you can use our API in order to integrate with every tool in the market.
Okay, where can we see those partnerships?
So the partnerships,
What are the other tools integration you support directly?
So you can go basically here, okay, to the integrate page, and I can send you later on the link to our documentation. It's widely open, so you can basically review everything is here. All the integration with everything, the WhiteSource server, release notes, and everything here. Okay, you have here the AVM, you have the Fortify, and you have everything here.
Sure. Thank you.
If you will write in Google, if you write in WhiteSource documentation, you will get it in the same place.
So coming back to the same question, so do we get the plugins for most of these tools? For example, if I wanted to have the plugin for the Coverity or PRQA, Perforce, like maybe like whatnot tool. So do you have the integration with respect to? So I may ask like for VectorCast or something. So do we have it?
So there is no plugin for WhiteSource. The WhiteSource agent is a jar file, okay?
Okay.
So you can basically run the scan on your code and integrate it with all the other tools using our API. You can basically, all the information in the UI that you see here is available by API.
Okay. So one more question. So does it actually like identify what all the open source tools also we used in our production environment?
What do you mean by open source?
For example, 7-zip and some other tools which are like open source tools, freeware tools. So is it going to detect that as well?
We are not basically scanning your environment. We are scanning your code or your open source code.
Yeah, you'll say that you'll be scanning the entire Docker image, right? So that's why I asked you.
Right. So yes, inside of the Docker image, we scan both the application that's installed there and the operating system as well.
Okay.
So if you have a Linux operating system inside of your Docker, we will scan that and find all the open source component in that Linux distribution and give you all the information about license compliance and security vulnerabilities.
Okay.
So where do we see the open source license available as on today across all platforms?
So on the home page, okay, you can see here the entire organization license distribution. So, and if you go for each and every product, you can see it specifically and specifically.
No, that is based on the projects, right? I mean, commonly, if we want to know ourselves, like, what are all the open source license as on today, like something like proprietary license and stuff. Okay, here it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Tamir, we got one question from chat from Thomas. So his question is like, what are the license issues can come from OSS?
The GPL, for example, if you are not using it properly, you should open your own code, your proprietary code, to the open source community. So you should like to use the GPL license. But I'm not a legal person. I'm a technical person, so I can advise you which of the I can go into the GPL, and you can see here, once you click on the GPL, you have all the information you need to read here. So when you talk about 78, you can see that anyone who distributes a modification of the code or product that is based on or contains part of the code may be required to make a publicly available the source code for the product or modification.
So
Can you
as
go
per
back
the
to?
screen which you have shown in the license distribution, so there are some in red and some are in, different colors, and some are in green and gray, stuff like that. So what you're trying to indicate actually?
So it
So you mean to
indicates
say,
a risk
so
of
you mean to
using
say
this.
that, like, if you use the open source with the license type GPL 2.0, means you have to be more precautious because that is more prone to vulnerability.
Not vulnerability, it's a legal issue.
Okay, got it.
So you need to mention like they do have the different types, like basically like what is the set of authority you have, what you can do, what you can't. That's what it is. Second thing,
Exactly.
like I could able to see here the sys internals, so which is in gray. Can you able to see that?
Which one? Those?
Sys internals. Yeah, just before like you are yeah. So sys internals after commercial. Yeah, you have to go down a little bit. After Adobe UL, okay, so commercial sys internals. Yeah,
Okay.
okay. So basically, like this is an open source tool chain actually. So that is
Okay.
why I'm actually like referring to.
This is basically a license of one of the components that one of the source files here that we basically detected. You can see a C source files.
Okay, because basically like sys internals trying to just like correlate is like is it going to identify those specific tool related things also, because that's what was my previous question also, right? So that's why
Right.
what.
So if you have source files or binaries inside of your code that calls to those platforms or infrastructures or tools, that yes, we will detect them as well.
Okay. 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 I think like I'm okay with it as of now.
Any other last question before we finish our meeting?
Um,
Can we get a trial page to do some hands-on on that?
Yes, of course. I think Siva, maybe you can take all the requests and forward it to Dennis.
Yes. So guys, if you would like to try WhiteSource for free for some time, we provide free evaluation for limited period of time so that you can have hands-on on your source code. So what we would say is sometimes you know the open source licenses you are following, and sometimes you cannot be knowing what are the open source violations you have in your code. So it's always better to take up a free scan for the first time, I guess. So maybe if you guys found some real vulnerabilities or real license violation, we'll take it forward. Okay, so please feel free to let us know if you need a free trial for some limited period of time, they'll be able to help you. So I guess you have received meeting invitation from Prabhu, right? Prabhu@median.com. So you can forward all your requests to the same mail ID. So we will take it forward, yes. And
Okay,
I'm going
sure.
to give you my mail ID as well in the chat, so that if you guys need to interact with me directly, even you can do that as well.
That's great.
I have a question actually in this security. Last question, okay? Okay. So in the security, here per library alerts and per vulnerability alerts. So you have that lock buttons and all, right? What exactly is it?
What do you mean? The lock?
Yeah.
It's just the icon. It means nothing.
Okay.
Because it's not, you have basically the lock mean if you have a lock, it means security, but as you can see, it's not totally locked, so this means that you have vulnerabilities. This is how I read it.
Okay. So basically like a pre-library alert, in the sense you are trying to use a library which is not properly secured. So,
Exactly.
and that particular library you're trying to use, and for the pre-vulnerability alert, so you're trying to use something so that is still vulnerable. So that's not properly secured. Got
exactly.
it. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for joining the meeting. So we all will be in sync over mails and calls. Oh, I got one more question of Sukdev. Okay, so I'm going to post this in YouTube in some time. Actually, I have to edit some things. So after editing, I will definitely post it in YouTube after getting approvals from WhiteSource team. Okay. Or before that, if you would like to have a dedicated demo session for your company specific, then we will be happy to arrange that as well. So if you want to have a dedicated demo session, we can have it. Or if you want to have a hands-on session, hands-on experience with WhiteSource, we are ready to give you trial license as well. So you please feel free to put us a mail to us so that we will take it forward accordingly.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Whatever, if we have missed out to answer some queries, or if you have not answered up to your expectation, please feel free to post your queries as well over a mail to us. We look forward to hear from you, please.
Thank you for joining me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Samir. Thanks for your time. Yeah. Thank you all. Thanks for your time. Have a good evening, guys. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Bye.